The Galactic Council's Grand Forum hung suspended in space, a gleaming silver disk orbiting the neutral world of Aurelian. Through its vast crystalline dome, the swirling amber clouds of the gas giant below cast a perpetual golden glow across the chamber floor, except today. Today, emergency lights bathed the forum in crimson, transforming the faces of 17 species representatives into masks of alarm. Dr. Lyra Kesh stood at the central podium, her slender Vishari frame perfectly still despite the chaos erupting around her. 6 hours ago, she had been preparing her keynote address on neural uplift ethics. 4 hours ago, she had slapped Ambassador Tyrell of the Terran Coalition across the face. 2 hours ago, 17 worlds had watched the recording in stunned silence. 1 hour ago, Earth had issued its ultimatum. "The Vishari delegate will explain her actions," demanded Council Moderator Jorval, his ancient Orinthian feathers bristling with indignation. The elderly moderator's voice, usually melodious, had taken on a rasp that cut through the chamber's frantic murmurs. Lyra's four-fingered hands adjusted the collar of her formal scientific vestments. The Vishari were known throughout the galaxy for their calm, analytical minds, their dedication to pure reason. That reputation lay in tatters now, alongside the diplomatic protocols of the Forum. "I will continue my presentation on the ethical limits of engineered neural uplift," she replied, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "The incident with Ambassador Tyrell does not invalidate the scientific evidence." From the Terran section of the chamber, Tyrell rose. The human diplomat's face remained impassive, but a dark red mark still colored her left cheek. "The Terran Coalition considers this assault a formal breach of interspecies protocols. We have transmitted our requirements to the Vishari delegation. You have 48 standard hours to issue a formal apology and accept sanctions, or Earth will implement defensive measures." The euphemism was not lost on anyone present. Defensive measures meant warships. It meant the activation of hyperspace gates and the mobilization of Earth's considerable military assets. It meant war with the Vishari Order over a slap. Lyra's inner eyelids flickered in what her species considered a gesture of resignation. The data remains valid regardless of diplomatic tensions. If the Council will permit, I shall proceed with... "The Council will permit nothing further from the Vishari delegation," Ambassador Serac of the Kazani Horde interrupted, his scaled face contorted with what might have been outrage or opportunistic glee. "We move to suspend all Vishari trade privileges pending resolution of this conflict." Jorval's gavel, a ceremonial tool rarely used in the Forum's normally orderly proceedings, cracked against his podium. "This emergency session will come to order. Dr. Kesh, you will address the incident before any scientific presentations may continue." In the human section, a slender man with silver-streaked hair leaned forward to whisper something to Tyrell. Dr. Marcus Caldwell, the senior scientist in the Terran delegation, had worked with Lyra on 3 joint research expeditions. His expression betrayed concern rather than hostility. Lyra nodded once, then faced the assembled delegates. "During my presentation on neural uplift protocols, Ambassador Tyrell accused me, and by extension, the entire Vishari Order, of fabricating data that undermined humanity's moral standing in the Council. The accusation was false, deliberately inflammatory, and violated the scientific integrity upon which this forum was founded. My physical response was unplanned." "Unplanned," Tyrell's voice cut through the chamber. "You crossed 3 meters of neutral ground to strike a diplomatic representative. That requires both intent and locomotion. Dr. Kesh?" The forum erupted again. Across 17 worlds watching the transmission, political analysts were already calculating the probability of interstellar conflict. The Vishari Order controlled key wormhole gates in the galactic east. Earth's colonies spanned the western arm. Both were technological powerhouses. Both maintained defensive fleets that had never faced serious challenge. Until now. Envoy Mirel of the Zenthari Peace Guild rose from her seat, her translucent skin glowing with the bioluminescence her species displayed in moments of distress. We must de-escalate immediately. The prophecies speak of a scarlet reckoning if... The Council recognizes no prophecies, only facts, Jorval interrupted. And the fact before us is a physical assault that has triggered Article 77 of the Concordat. Ambassador Taurel, what precisely does Earth require to consider this matter resolved? Taurel stood again, every movement deliberate. A public apology, the immediate surrender of all Vishari research on neural uplift technologies, and the removal of Dr. Kesh from all council positions. Lyra's outer membrane flushed deep indigo, the Vishari equivalent of blanching in shock. The research represents 3 decades of work across multiple species. It cannot be simply 48 hours, Taurel repeated, and with a gesture to her delegation, led the humans from the chamber. Only Dr. Caldwell hesitated at the exit, glancing back at Lyra with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. Then he too was gone, and Lyra stood alone before the council, her career and possibly her entire civilization's peace hanging in the balance of a single impulsive act. The emergency session dissolved into faction-driven chaos. As Lyra departed the chamber, she found herself walking alongside Envoy Mirel, whose bioluminescent patterns had shifted to a concerned purple. "You've read the old texts," Mirel whispered. "The Scarlet Reckoning, a war to purge impure civilizations, the lights in the chamber today." "I respect your beliefs, Envoy, but this is a diplomatic crisis, not a mythological one," Lyra replied, though a part of her, the part raised on Vishari legends, before she embraced pure science, felt a chill at the coincidence. "Pride before unity leads to ash," Mirel quoted. "Be careful, Dr. Kesh. Some prophecies fulfill themselves." Back in the Vishari embassy quarters, Lyra found her research team in disarray. Junior scientists were frantically backing up data, while security officers reviewed emergency evacuation protocols. Outside their viewport, the golden clouds of Aurelian swirled, oblivious to the crisis unfolding in the station above them. "The High Council is convening an emergency session," her assistant informed her. "They're requesting your immediate testimony via quantum link." Lyra nodded, steeling herself for what would certainly be an unpleasant conversation. The Vishari valued control above all else, control of emotion, of environment, of knowledge. She had demonstrated a catastrophic lack of that cherished quality. The quantum link hummed to life, projecting the austere faces of the Vishari High Council across 27 light-years of space. First Speaker Tan's expression was as close to furious as a Vishari ever allowed themselves to appear. "Explain yourself, Dr. Kesh." Ambassador Taurel alleged that our comparative neural mapping studies were fabricated to make human uplift protocols appear destructive and dangerous. The accusation was baseless and designed to undermine decades of legitimate research. "And your response was to engage in primitive physical violence?" Second Speaker Vril asked, her tone flat with disapproval. "It was an error of judgment," Lyra admitted, "one that may have severe consequences for our people. Earth's war fleet has already begun mobilization," First Speaker Tan informed her. "Hyperspace tunnels are flaring across 3 star systems. They appear quite serious in their ultimatum." Lyra felt her inner eyelids flutter in distress. "The research cannot be surrendered. It would set interspecies science back by decades. And the data itself proves that human neural uplift methods are actually showing signs of stabilization, the very opposite of what Tyrell accused us of claiming. The council members exchanged glances. "Elaborate," third speaker next commanded. "My presentation today was meant to reveal that after initial concerns, longitudinal studies show human uplift protocols are achieving equilibrium in 62% of test cases, up from 17% a decade ago. This is actually favorable to humanity's standing, not detrimental." First Speaker Tan's expression darkened further. Then why would Ambassador Tyrell react with such hostility? "Because she hadn't heard the conclusion yet," Lyra replied. "She reacted to preliminary data and assumed the worst of our intentions." A moment of silence fell across the quantum link as the High Council conferred in subvocal frequencies Lyra's communication system couldn't detect. Finally, First Speaker Tan addressed her again. "You will return to Vishar Prime immediately. The dreadnought, Inexorable Logic, has been dispatched to escort you through the Aurelian Gate." Lyra felt her pulse quicken. The Inexorable Logic is a phase-shift vessel. Sending it will only escalate tensions further. "The decision is made. Dr. Kesh, you have 26 hours to complete your withdrawal." The quantum link dissolved, leaving Lyra alone with the weight of her actions and the growing certainty that a momentary lapse in control might cost millions of lives. On the opposite side of Aurelian Station, Dr. Marcus Caldwell sat across from Ambassador Tyrell in the secure communications chamber of the Terran Embassy. The ambassador's manner had changed entirely once they were behind closed doors. Gone was the icy diplomat, replaced by a shrewd political operative with undisguised ambition. "Earth Central Command is pleased," Tyrell said, studying a private communique on her datapad. "This incident provides the perfect pretext to secure the Aurelian Wormgate. Our analysts have been seeking leverage over Vishari transit rights for years." Caldwell frowned. "We're risking interstellar war over transit fees." "We're asserting humanity's rightful place in the galactic order," Tyrell corrected. "The Vishari have held technological advantage for too long. Their control of the eastern gates has hampered our expansion. Dr. Kesh's research actually supports our uplift protocols," Caldwell pointed out, "if you'd allowed her to finish. Politics isn't about facts, Marcus. It's about perception and opportunity." Tyrell smiled thinly. "The perception now is that the Vishari are unstable and violent. The opportunity is to press our advantage." Caldwell rose from his chair. "I won't be part of manufacturing a conflict. Ambassador Lyra Dr. Kesh is a scientist of integrity. I've worked with her. There are better ways to handle this situation." "Your objection is noted," Tyrell replied coolly. "However, Earth Central Command has already authorized the deployment of the 7th Fleet to secure the Aurelian Gate. Whether you approve or not, wheels are in motion." "Then I resign my position with this delegation," Caldwell said. Tyrell's smile didn't waver. "No, you don't. You have family on Luna Colony, yes? It would be a shame if their life support allocation were to be reviewed due to resource constraints during a military crisis." Caldwell stared at her, the blood draining from his face. "That's illegal." "That's leverage, Doctor. Now, you'll maintain your position and support the delegation's official stance. More importantly, you'll use your prior relationship with Dr. Kesh to gather intelligence on Vishari defensive capabilities. Or your family faces hardship while you face charges of treason during wartime. Neither scenario ends well for you." Tyrell turned back to her datapad. "Now, I believe you have a call to make to your old colleague." 18 hours later, Lyra Kesh stood in the Vishari Embassy's secure communications room, surprised to find an encrypted channel request from Dr. Marcus Caldwell. After a moment's hesitation, she accepted the call. Caldwell's face appeared, haggard with what appeared to be lack of sleep. "Dr. Kesh, I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all," Lyra replied carefully, "though I imagine this conversation violates several Terran protocols." "Probably," he agreed with a grim smile. "Listen, I don't have much time. Tyrell is... This situation isn't what it appears. There are factions within Earth Central Command who have been looking for an excuse to challenge Vishari control of the worm gates." Lyra's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. "You're saying this confrontation was predetermined?" "Not exactly, but when the opportunity presented itself, certain decisions were made very quickly." He glanced over his shoulder. "The 7th Fleet has already deployed. They'll reach Aurelian in less than 30 hours. The High Council has recalled me to Vesher Prime. They're sending a dreadnought as escort." Caldwell paled visibly. "A phase-shift vessel?" Lyra nodded. "The inexorable logic. It can bypass conventional blockades." "That will be seen as a direct provocation. Lyra, you need to delay your departure. I'm trying to open back channels with moderates in Earth Central Command, but I need time." "Time is precisely what we lack. Marcus, your ambassador made that clear with her 48-hour ultimatum." "Tyrell doesn't speak for all of humanity," Caldwell insisted, "just as your reaction doesn't represent all Vishari." Lyra allowed herself a moment of genuine regret. Yet here we are, potentially at war because of both. There must be a way to de-escalate. Your research, the complete findings, if they were made public, it would undermine the narrative Tyrell is constructing. The High Council has classified all neural uplift data pending resolution of this crisis. I no longer have authority to release it." Caldwell's expression hardened with sudden resolve. "Then we'll have to create a new forum. The Xani are pushing for a trade embargo against your people. Using this incident as justification, Ambassador Serac has called for an emergency vote in 12 hours. Serac has coveted our medical technology for decades," Lyra noted. "This serves his interests perfectly. Then we need to demonstrate that cooperation serves everyone's interests better than conflict." Caldwell looked directly into the camera. "Meet me at Observation Deck 17 in 2 hours. Come alone." The transmission ended before Lyra could respond. She stood motionless for several minutes, calculating variables, potential outcomes, and the probability that this was an elaborate trap. In the end, curiosity, that most essential scientific impulse, outweighed caution. 2 hours later, she stood on the deserted observation deck, watching Aurelian's swirling atmosphere below. The gas giant's complex storm systems formed patterns reminiscent of Vishari mathematical principles, order emerging from chaos through predictable variables. If only diplomatic crises followed such elegant equations. "Thank you for coming." Caldwell's voice came from behind her. He approached slowly, hands visible to show he carried no weapons. "Curiosity is a scientist's defining trait," Lyra replied, "though in this instance perhaps not a wise one." "I've managed to access some restricted archives," Caldwell said without preamble. "Historical records from Earth's first contact with non-human intelligence. There are parallels to our current situation that might prove useful." "The Centauri misunderstanding," Lyra nodded, "required study at the Vishari Science Academy, a gesture of respect misinterpreted as a threat display." "Yes, but there's more to that incident than the official record shows." Caldwell withdrew a small data crystal from his pocket. "This contains communiques between Earth Command and the Centauri delegation that never made it into the historical account. They reveal that certain human factions deliberately misconstrued the gesture to justify military expansion." Lyra's outer membrane rippled with surprise. "You're suggesting a similar manipulation is occurring now?" "I'm suggesting that history repeats itself when we fail to learn its lessons." He offered her the crystal. "This alone won't prevent conflict. but it might help you convince your council that negotiation remains possible with the right human partners. Lyra accepted the crystal, studying it briefly before securing it in her vestments. "Why are you doing this, Marcus? Ambassador Tyrell would consider this treason." "Because I believe in the work we've done together," he answered simply, "and because 50 million lives on colony worlds along the Vishari border shouldn't be sacrificed for political advantage." A moment of understanding passed between them, two scientists caught in the machinery of politics, trying to apply reason where emotion and ambition ruled. "The Kazani vote will happen before either of us can return to our respective capitals," Lyra noted. "If they succeed in imposing an embargo, military confrontation becomes significantly more probable. Then we need to ensure that vote never takes place," Caldwell replied, "and I think I know how." As they began to formulate their plan, neither noticed the small surveillance drone hovering in the shadows of the observation deck's ceiling, nor the fact that it transmitted directly to Ambassador Tyrell's private network. 10 hours later, the Grand Forum reconvened. Emergency lights still washing the chamber in ominous red. Ambassador Serac of the Connie Horde stood at the central podium, his scaled skin gleaming as he addressed the assembled delegates. "The evidence is clear," he proclaimed, gesturing to the holographic displays surrounding the chamber. These showed scenes of apparent chaos on Vishari colonies, riots, industrial accidents, infrastructure failures. The Vishari Order's supposed stability is a carefully constructed facade. Their unprovoked attack on a human diplomat was merely the most visible crack in that facade. "We propose an immediate trade embargo until a full investigation of their neural enhancement technologies can be completed." Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. The Kazani Horde controlled crucial rare mineral deposits needed by most spacefaring species. Their support for an embargo carried significant weight. Council Moderator Jorval looked troubled. "These are serious allegations. Ambassador Serac, the Forum recognizes Dr. Marcus Caldwell of the Terran delegation to respond." Caldwell approached the podium with measured steps. Ambassador Tyrell watched from the human section, her expression unreadable. "Esteemed delegates," Caldwell began, "what you are witnessing is a fabrication. These images purporting to show Vishari instability are in fact scenes from the Proxima disaster of 2289, digitally altered to replace human subjects with Vishari avatars." The Forum erupted in shocked exclamations. Serac's scales flared in anger. "This is an outrageous accusation." "One easily verified," Caldwell replied calmly. He activated his own display protocols, and new holographic images appeared, the original footage of the Proxima disaster, clearly showing the same scenes but with human victims instead. "The Xani delegation has attempted to manipulate this forum into economic action that would inevitably lead to military conflict," Caldwell continued. "Their motives are transparent. Control of neural uplift technology that currently only the Vishari, and to a lesser extent, humanity possess." From the Vishari section, Lyra Kesh rose. "The Forum may wish to consider that both the original incident between myself and Ambassador Tyrell, and this attempted deception by the Xani, revolve around the same technology. Neural uplift represents the next great evolutionary leap for all our species. Those who control its development will shape the future of galactic civilization." Serac hissed in fury. "The human speaks against his own delegation's position. Ambassador Tyrell, control your subordinate." All eyes turned to Tyrell, who stood with dangerous composure. "Dr. Caldwell does not speak for Earth in this matter. His access to classified Terran archives, which he has apparently shared with the Vishari, constitutes treason during a time of diplomatic crisis. I call for his immediate detention." Station security officers moved toward Caldwell, but he stood his ground. I speak for scientific truth, Ambassador, a concept that transcends political boundaries. Security will escort Dr. Caldwell to detention, Jorval ordered reluctantly. However, the evidence he has presented regarding Shani deception will be investigated fully before any vote on an embargo may proceed. As the officers approached Caldwell, the chamber's lighting suddenly shifted from emergency red to standard illumination. A moment later, the main communication array activated without authorization, projecting the image of First Speaker Tan of the Vishari High Council. Honored delegates, the Vishari leader began, his tone formal but urgent. I speak to you directly as the Terran 7th Fleet approaches the Aurelian Wormgate. War stands on our threshold, precipitated by a momentary lapse of control by one scientist and exploited by those who desire conflict for their own purposes. The chamber fell silent, all attention focused on the unexpected transmission. In the interest of transparency and peace, the Vishari High Council has authorized me to release the complete neural uplift research data compiled by Dr. Kesh and her team, including findings that demonstrate the increasing stability and safety of human uplift protocols. Tyrell rose from her seat. This is a transparent attempt to... Ambassador Tyrell, First Speaker Tan interrupted. Your government's ultimatum expires in 8 hours. The dreadnought Inexorable Logic has taken position near the Aurelian Gate. If the Terran fleet attempts to blockade Vishari transit rights, we are prepared to respond with phase shift technology that will render your conventional weapons ineffective. The forum erupted again, delegates shouting questions and demands while Jorval frantically tried to restore order. Above the chaos, Tan's voice continued, implacable. However, we prefer another path. Dr. Kesh's complete research reveals that humanity's approach to neural enhancement, while different from our own, shows remarkable promise. Together, our species could achieve breakthroughs neither could accomplish alone. We extend an offer of collaborative research in place of conflict. In the human section, Tyrell conferred urgently with her aides, her carefully constructed scenario unraveling. The security officers who had been approaching Caldwell hesitated, awaiting clear instructions from Jorval. Lyra stepped forward. Moderator Jorval, I request permission to address the forum. The elderly Orinthian gestured his assent, grateful for any potential path away from the precipice of war. Delegates of the Galactic Council, Lyra began, her voice steady despite the tension permeating the chamber. 6 days ago, I committed an act of physical aggression against Ambassador Tyrell. It was unworthy of a Vishari, unworthy of a scientist, and unworthy of this forum. For that, I offer sincere apology. She paused, looking directly at Tyrell. However, the response to that act has revealed deeper tensions and ambitions that threaten all our civilizations. The research that sparked this confrontation offers a way forward, if we have the wisdom to take it. On the main display, First Speaker Tan nodded. The Vishari Order proposes an immediate summit on neural uplift technology, with unrestricted scientific exchange between our researchers and human experts. We further propose that Dr. Kesh and Dr. Caldwell co-chair this initiative, given their demonstrated commitment to truth over political advantage. From the back of the chamber, a new voice spoke. Envoy Morel of the Zenthari Peace Guild. The lights have changed from red to white, the scarlet reckoning averted by truth freely given. The prophecy speaks of this moment, the branch point where pride yields to wisdom. Though many delegates dismissed the Zenthari's mystical interpretation, none could deny the palpable shift in the chamber's atmosphere. The path to war, which had seemed inevitable hours before, now appeared as just one of many possible futures, and not the most desirable one. Jorval seized the moment. The forum will recess for 2 hours while delegations consider the Vishari proposal. Ambassador Tyrell, your government's response is particularly awaited." As the chamber began to clear, Caldwell found himself released from security's attention. He made his way to where Lyra stood with the Vishari delegation. "That was unexpected," he said quietly. "The High Council can be surprisingly flexible when extinction is the alternative," Lyra replied, her outer membrane showing hints of what might have been Vishari humor. "Your evidence regarding the Khani deception proved decisive." "Not as decisive as your research data," Caldwell noted. "If Tyrell had allowed you to complete your presentation 6 days ago, then I would have had no reason to slap her, and we might not be standing on the verge of a new era of scientific cooperation," Lyra finished. "Curious how advancement sometimes requires disruption." "A rather generous interpretation of assault," came Tyrell's voice from behind them. The human ambassador approached alone, her delegation having departed for urgent consultations. Lyra turned to face her. "Ambassador, I have offered my apology. Whether you accept it is, of course, your prerogative." Tyrell studied both scientists for a long moment. Dr. Caldwell's actions constitute a serious breach of trust. Under normal circumstances, his career would be finished. "These are hardly normal circumstances," Caldwell replied evenly. "No," Tyrell agreed. "They are not, which is why I've just received new instructions from Earth Central Command. It seems the complete Vishari research data has been analyzed by our own experts, who find it compelling." Lyra's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. That was remarkably efficient analysis for such complex data. "Let's just say certain elements within Earth Command had been anticipating this outcome for some time," Tyrell said cryptically. "The 7th Fleet has been ordered to stand down and take up observation positions only, not blockade. We are authorized to accept your proposal for a joint research initiative." Caldwell's expression revealed his skepticism. "Just like that? What about the ultimatum, the demands for surrender of research?" "Politics, Dr. Caldwell, is the art of bold demands followed by reasonable compromises." Tyrell's smile held no warmth. "You'll both be pleased to know that I've been reassigned. The new Terran ambassador will arrive within the week to formalize our acceptance of the Vishari proposal." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Lyra and Caldwell to contemplate the abrupt shift in circumstances. "I don't trust this sudden reversal," Caldwell said quietly. "Nor do I," Lyra agreed. "But it buys us time, and with the complete research data now public, the original justification for conflict has been undermined." A chime sounded, indicating the forum would reconvene shortly. Around them, delegates hurried back to their positions, the mood noticeably lighter than it had been hours earlier. "One question remains," Caldwell said as they walked back toward the chamber. "If your research actually supported human neural uplift methods, why did Tyrell react so strongly when you began presenting it?" Lyra's outer membrane rippled in the Vishari equivalent of a thoughtful frown. Perhaps she didn't know the conclusion. Perhaps she was acting on incomplete information from her superiors, or perhaps some within Earth Command never wanted the actual research. They only wanted a pretext for confrontation. Caldwell finished. "A hypothesis consistent with available evidence," Lyra acknowledged. "But now we have a more interesting question to pursue, which is whether humans and Vishari, working together without political interference, can perfect neural uplift technology that benefits all species, not just our own." As they re-entered the forum chamber, the emergency lights remained deactivated. Aurelian's golden glow once again bathed the delegates in warm illumination, a symbolic return to normalcy that everyone present understood might be temporary. The crisis had been averted, for now. But as Ambassador Serac's furious expression and Tyrell's too easy capitulation suggested, the underlying tensions remained. The Galactic Council had stepped back from the precipice of war, yet the path forward remained uncertain. 24 hours later, Lyra Kesh stood in the docking bay of Aurelian Station, watching as the shuttle from the dreadnought, Inexorable Logic, prepared for departure. First Speaker Tan's holographic form stood beside her, visible only to Vishari optical frequencies. The ship will remain cloaked in phase shift until the formal agreements are signed, Tan informed her, a prudent precaution. Agreed, Lyra replied, though I remain concerned about Ambassador Tyrell's sudden reversal. It suggests either prior knowledge of our research conclusions or a secondary agenda we haven't identified. Both possibilities have been factored into our strategic calculations, Tan assured her. Your new assignment as co-chair of the Joint Neural Uplift Commission places you in an ideal position to monitor human scientific and political developments. Lyra's inner eyelids flickered with mild distress. You speak as though the diplomatic crisis was merely replaced by espionage. Peace and vigilance are not mutually exclusive. Dr. Kesh, your incident with Ambassador Tyrell revealed vulnerabilities in our diplomatic approach. We will not be caught unprepared again. As the hologram faded, Lyra remained in the docking bay, contemplating the complex interplay of science, politics, and personal action that had brought them to this juncture. Her slap, an impulsive, emotional response so atypical for a Vishari, had nearly triggered interstellar war. Yet it had also exposed machinations that might otherwise have remained hidden until a more dangerous confrontation emerged. Quite a view, came Dr. Caldwell's voice as he approached from the bay entrance. The inexorable logic is impressive, even partially phase-shifted. You shouldn't be able to see it at all, Lyra noted with surprise. Recent advances in spectral imaging, Caldwell explained with a slight smile. Not quite as impressive as your phase shift technology, but we're making progress. Another example of information humans weren't supposed to possess, Lyra observed. Your species is consistently underestimated. A fact that has served us well throughout our history, Caldwell acknowledged, though in this case I think transparency serves everyone's interests better than secrets. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching as the shuttle completed its docking procedures with the barely visible dreadnought. The new Terran ambassador arrives tomorrow, Caldwell said finally. Admiral Helena Chen. She has a reputation for pragmatism and scientific respect. A deliberate choice, I imagine, after Tyrell's approach proved counterproductive. Yes, though I've been informed my position on the delegation remains under review. Apparently, treason charges require significant paperwork. Lyra's outer membrane rippled with what might have been amusement. The High Council has expressed similar reservations about my continued involvement. It seems both our governments prefer predictable representatives. Yet they've agreed to let us co-chair the Joint Commission, Caldwell pointed out, because we've demonstrated a commitment to scientific truth over political expediency. Lyra replied, a quality suddenly valuable in the current climate. Truth as the foundation for interspecies cooperation, revolutionary concept. Indeed, though I suspect we'll face resistance from multiple quarters, the Kazani delegation has already filed formal protests against their exclusion from the commission. Caldwell nodded thoughtfully. Ambassador Serac won't abandon his ambitions easily, and there are factions within Earth Command who still view Vishari technological advantages with envy rather than collaborative interest. Then we must ensure our work produces benefits too valuable to disrupt, Lyra said. The preliminary data already suggests neural uplift protocols combining human adaptability with Vishari precision could yield remarkable results. As the shuttle completed its docking and disappeared into the phase-shifted dreadnought, Lyra and Caldwell turned to leave the bay. The crisis that had brought them to the brink of war had passed, but both understood that the real work, building something worth preserving, was just beginning. 3 months later, the Galactic Council's Grand Forum convened again on Aurelian Station. This time, there were no emergency lights, no military vessels poised at the worm gate, no ultimatums with countdown timers. Instead, delegates from 17 worlds gathered to witness the formal presentation of the Interstellar Uplift Accord, a comprehensive framework for ethical neural enhancement research, technological exchange, and implementation protocols. Dr. Lyra Kesh and Dr. Marcus Caldwell stood together at the central podium, their respective delegations arrayed behind them in a visual demonstration of cooperation. The new Terran ambassador, Admiral Helena Chen, sat in dignified attention, while First Speaker Tan represented the Vishari High Council via quantum projection. "Honored delegates," Lyra began, her voice carrying clearly through the forum chamber. 3 months ago, this body stood at the precipice of conflict, a conflict triggered by my failure of control and exploited by those who sought advantage in chaos. Today, Caldwell continued seamlessly, we present not just a peace accord, but a pathway to advancement that no single species could achieve alone. The Interstellar Uplift Accord represents the culmination of decades of research from both human and Vishari scientists, now unified in purpose. The holographic displays activated, showing complex neural mapping data, comparative species analysis, and projected development timelines. Unlike previous presentations, these were configured to be accessible to all species present, with adaptive interfaces accommodating different sensory capabilities. The Accord establishes 3 core principles, Lyra explained. First, that neural enhancement must preserve the essential nature of each species while expanding cognitive capacity. Second, that all technological developments must be subject to ethical review by a multi-species commission. And third, that no single civilization may monopolize these advancements. From the Canny section, Ambassador Serac rose. The Horde notes that this cooperative initiative conveniently positions humans and Vishari as the primary beneficiaries of shared technology. What guarantees do other species have that we will not simply become consumers of your innovations rather than true partners? It was a fair question, one that had been anticipated. Caldwell nodded respectfully to Serac before responding. The Accord includes provisions for rotating membership on the Oversight Commission, with guaranteed positions for any species demonstrating relevant expertise. Additionally, implementation protocols will be customized for each participating civilization, ensuring benefits are distributed equitably. Furthermore, Lyra added, the initial neural mapping database includes comprehensive scans from 14 species, including the Kazani. Your people's unique neurological structure offers insights that neither humans nor Vishari could have developed independently. This revelation caused a stir among the delegates. The inclusion of Kani neural data, something Ambassador Serac had long refused to share with potential rivals, represented a significant shift in the political landscape. Admiral Chen rose from her seat. The Terran Coalition endorses this approach not merely as a scientific endeavor, but as a new foundation for interstellar cooperation. We acknowledge that previous competitive postures have limited potential advancement for all our civilizations. First Speaker Tan's projected form inclined in agreement. The Vishari Order concurs. The incident that nearly led to conflict has instead revealed a path to mutual enhancement that benefits all who choose to participate. From the back of the chamber, Envoy Morel of the Zenthari Peace Guild observed with quiet satisfaction. The luminescent patterns flowing across her translucent skin had shifted to peaceful blue tones. The prophecy of the Scarlet Reckoning had been averted, transformed instead into what Zenthari texts called the convergence of minds, a far more hopeful future. As the formal signing ceremony commenced, Lyra and Caldwell stepped back from the podium. Their work as scientists would continue. But this diplomatic achievement represented something neither had anticipated when they first collaborated years earlier. From a slap to a signed accord in 3 months, Caldwell murmured, not the most conventional path to interspecies cooperation. The Vishari have a concept called productive disruption, Lyra replied. Sometimes established systems require a shock to evolve beyond their limitations. Is that how you're justifying assault in your official report? Caldwell asked with a hint of amusement. I prefer to think of it as an unplanned experiment in diplomatic recalibration, Lyra answered, her outer membrane rippling with what was definitely Vishari humor, though not one I would recommend replicating. As representatives from each world affix their authentication to the accord, the golden light of Aurelian bathed the chamber in warm illumination, not the harsh emergency red of crisis, nor the sterile white of routine proceedings, but something richer, something that, to many present, felt like the dawn of a new era in galactic relations. Ambassador Serac approached them after the ceremony, his scaled features composed in formal neutrality. Dr. Kesh, Dr. Caldwell, the Kazani Horde will be watching the implementation of this accord with great interest. We welcome your participation, Ambassador, Lyra responded. The Commission's first technical session has a position reserved for Kani neuroscience representatives, and we've incorporated your concerns about species-specific implementation into the protocols, Caldwell added. Serac studied them both for a moment before replying, Our representatives will attend. However, be advised that not all within the Horde share my pragmatic approach to this new arrangement. There are those who view this sudden alliance between humans and Vishari with suspicion. Change often inspires caution, Lyra acknowledged, but the data speaks for itself. Neural uplift technology enhanced through collaboration will advance all our civilizations beyond what any could achieve alone. We shall see, Serac said simply, and with a formal gesture of respect that surprised both scientists. He departed. As the forum chamber gradually emptied, Lyra and Caldwell found themselves joined by Envoy Morel, whose bioluminescent patterns pulsed with serene rhythms. The prophecies spoke truly, she said without preamble. From violence came understanding, from pride came humility, from separation came convergence. With respect, Envoy, Caldwell replied, I credit scientific evidence and diplomatic perseverance more than prophecy. The universe unfolds according to patterns we glimpse only partially, Morel said, untroubled by his skepticism. You see data points, we see the connections between them. Both perspectives have value. Lyra, who had studied Zenthari mysticism during her early academic career, inclined her head respectfully. Your people's insights provided important context during the crisis. Envoy Morel, the concept of the Scarlet Reckoning helped frame the stakes in terms all could understand. And now the convergence of minds begins, Morel said with evident satisfaction. Remember this moment, scientists. Not all progress can be measured in your laboratories. With that cryptic statement, she drifted away, leaving Lyra and Caldwell to contemplate the path that had brought them to this juncture and the uncertain future that lay ahead. Do you think it will work? Caldwell asked quietly as they watched the remaining delegates depart. This grand cooperation, humans and Vishari have been technological rivals for generations. I think it must work, Lyra replied. The alternative, continuing to develop such powerful technologies in isolation, invites misunderstanding and conflict. As recent events demonstrated rather dramatically, Caldwell smiled. You mean when you slapped Ambassador Taurel and accidentally declared war on Earth? A diplomatic misunderstanding, Lyra corrected primly, though her outer membrane rippled with amusement. Though I admit, it was not my finest moment as a representative of Vishari restraint. Sometimes restraint is overrated, Caldwell observed. That moment of very un-Vishari impulse may have saved millions of lives by exposing machinations that would have eventually led to far worse conflict. A comforting rationalization, Lyra acknowledged, though I would not recommend physical violence as a standard diplomatic technique. As they left the forum chamber together, the vastness of Aurelian visible through the crystalline dome above them, both scientists understood that they had helped navigate their respective civilizations away from a destructive collision course. The Joint Neural Uplift Commission would face challenges, setbacks, and resistance from those who preferred the old competitive model of advancement. But for now, at least, the galaxy's two most technologically advanced species had found common ground, ironically, through an act of distinctly uncommon physical aggression. The slap that might have led to war had instead opened a door to cooperation that neither humanity nor the Vishari could have anticipated. And somewhere in the vastness of space, watching the golden swirls of Aurelian's atmosphere from the observation deck of a phase-shifted dreadnought. First Speaker Tan of the Vishari High Council allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The human expression about silver linings seemed unexpectedly apt. From Dr. Kesh's momentary lapse had emerged an opportunity centuries in the making, the chance to guide neural uplift technology not in isolation, but in concert with humanity's unpredictable yet undeniably effective approach. The Scarlet Reckoning had been averted, the convergence of minds had begun, and the galaxy, for better or worse, would never be quite the same.